Welcome. Did you say action? Action. Okay. Welcome, everybody. My name is Ashley, and there's a lot of you here tonight. I'm so excited. My heart is so happy. So thank you for spending your Monday night with us. I am very excited you're all here. For those of you that are my normal classmates, you know that primarily this class is about some form of digestion or the digestion process. It's where kind of all health starts from, and that's just the God's honest truth. So my goal this semester has kind of been to reach out, so I'm not lecturing just as much, and we are getting other perspectives and other professionals in the holistic health, natural world arena to come in and speak. And today I have invited Dr. Suger from Sophia Integrative Health down in Brookfield. He happens to be my amazing acupuncturist. So this is all because of him. He's amazing. You guys should all take a card and go hang out down there because they have some really wonderful practitioners. So yeah, welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Ashley. I really appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me down here. It's a pleasure to meet all of you guys. So as Ashley was saying, I'm the senior acupuncturist at Sophia Natural Health Center. We're located right in Brookfield, literally like 5-6 minutes away. So very easy drive. And I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about digestion and how important it is to be comfortable with your digestion, right? You know, these things happening inside our body, sometimes we can sort of compartmentalize and just sort of ignore, right? We have a stomach ache here, we have some diarrhea over there, all right? We can sort of write it off and not pay much attention to it. But these are actually very significant signs of health. And it's important to be able to identify those signs of health and know whether or not you should talk to your PCP or your provider and talk about these issues, because they can be impeding you from living a healthy life, or they might be actual red flags that are relevant to a larger health issue. So we'll talk a little bit about that today, and then we'll talk a little bit about what I do, how we can help with digestive issues, and sort of dispel some myths surrounding acupuncture, herbs, and all those things. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about first about why should we care about our digestion at all, right? Why is it a significant aspect of our health? Something that maybe you're not so familiar with, but you're becoming comfortable with our bowel movements. I know it's potty talk, literally, but it's actually something that's really important for your health, and understanding and being comfortable with observing your own bowel movement. And even as gross as that sounds, it's a very important indication of what's going on with your body and how you could improve your health, or certain signs to look out for. So that's one thing we're going to talk about. We're also going to talk about some commonly held beliefs about healthy habits that in reality aren't that healthy. So some things that you can avoid. And then we can talk about how we can go about improving our own digestive health, simple ways of doing that. And then finally, how about you can take control of your own health and feel better, be more productive, be more active, all those great things. Okay? If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just feel free to speak out, raise your hand up, whatever works for you. So why should we take a closer look at our health, our digestion? So I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir already if you've already listened to Ashley's lectures about digestion and what you eat and how important it is to your health, right? Digestion is the pivot in which our bodies depend on, right? All of what we are today outside of our soul and what God provides us comes from the food and nutrients that we take in and we transform into our body's cells and our own being. So the famous adage of you are what you eat, that is literally true. You are what you eat. All the food that you take in, all the nutrition you take in is converted into cells, is converted into power, into energy. and that is what supplies your body. Okay? So that's where our energy comes from. So if you're feeling tired throughout the day, if you're feeling exhausted, or if you're feeling good, a lot of that has to do with what you're taking in, how much you're taking in, and if you're taking in the right types of food at the right period of the day. Okay? So this is going to affect how you feel. I'm sure you've all been there. You've had a stomach ache. You've been unable to go to sleep because you ate something that disagreed with your stomach, right? I'm sure you guys are already aware of how important your digestion is. It's just sometimes we have to shine a little bit more light on it to really understand of how big of an impact it's playing in your day-to-day routine. So it's kind of crass to say, even though that we are all made in the image of our Creator, we can say in another sense we are a poop factory.
That's perfect.
Because if you think about it, all we're taking in, right? All the food, all the water, all the juices, whatever we're taking in, is going through an elaborate process of digestion, right? We put it in our mouth, and it comes out the other end. And it's kind of amazing when you think about it. If you're eating a burger, you're eating some delicious lentil soup, and then it comes out in a completely different form. And that takes so much integration, so much synergy between so many different organs, right? There's this idea that the vast majority of the cells in your body are actually found in your digestive tract, right? There are actually more neurotransmitters found in your digestive tract as opposed to your brain, right? So there's already a lot of research, a lot of ideas behind the idea that our gut plays a very key role in how our brain works, and how we actually see the world and how we function in society. So even though it's kind of crass, we are in a sense a poop factory. We take things in and then we leave things out. We push things out. And it's something really important that we should be familiar with. We should be comfortable with looking at our bowel movements. We should be able to assess, how good is my bowel movement right now? It might not be something that is, it's not nice to look at. It's not something that smells good or anything. Of course, we all understand that. But it's still a very important indicator of how our body's working. And taking the moment to look and say, what does my stool look like? Is it what a healthy stool should look like? And if it isn't, what kind of steps you can take to make yourself more healthy and therefore have this more ideal poop. So what is the ideal bowel movement? We're looking for one bowel movement a day in the morning that's formed and easy to pass. That's in one piece. Now that's ideal, right? That's perfect, right? Doesn't mean if that's not exactly what your bowel movement looks like, it doesn't mean you're in serious trouble. But there are definitely signs that could suggest that you are in serious trouble, and it's something really important to talk about. So, I guess I have a few stories about this. So, in our Western culture, we are fairly, we consider talking about our bodily fluids and our bodily waste as pretty risque, something that is not for pleasant conversation. So I spent a lot of time in China. I lived in China for 6 years. And there's one story I like to bring up that has sort of been ingrained in my mind. So when I first went to China, I was at a university. I was at the Zhejiang University of Chinese Medicine. And there we were going to go out and go have some dinner with some of the classmates I had. It was sort of an exchange program where there was a bunch of Chinese students and then American students. And we were all fraternizing. And one of my friends that I had made, called me up and told me that she couldn't make it to the dinner. I asked, why? Are you not feeling well? He said, I'm having diarrhea. And, to me, that was really weird. Because, this is the young 20-something-year-old girl just sort of flat out saying, I'm having diarrhea, I'm in the bathroom all day. And I thought that was so weird. But at the same time, I think it's really important to be sort of cognizant of how your bowels are doing. And I'm not suggesting that you just go up to your friend and say, hey, I'm super constipated today, That's not what I'm suggesting, but what I am suggesting is that you yourself being comfortable with that, and on top of that, that you are able to talk to your doctor about that. That's what I think is most important. That, when I talk to patients all day long, when I ask them about their bowel movements, it's because it's an important indication of health, right? A lot of the times they'll say, hey, it's normal, nothing's wrong. And then, I ask some more questions, what does normal mean to you? And they tell me, oh, I haven't had a bowel movement in 5 days, but that's normal for me, right? When that's a huge red flag. And that's something I talk to my students about all the time too, where you have to really dig into these questions sometimes, because a lot of people aren't comfortable in talking about their digestion, talking about their bowel movement, even though it's so important, right? So if we're talking about the ideal of a bowel movement being once a day, formed, easy to pass, all of that, if we vary from that, if you're having 4 or 5 bowel movements a day that are loose and watery, or you're not going to the bathroom only every 2 or 3 days and it's hard to push out and it comes out like little pellets, those are both indications of something that your digestion's not working the way it should be, right? There are definitely things that should be done to help improve that, because short term it might be inconvenient, but long term it could cause other issues, whether it be, I don't want to say cancer, but whether it be certain intestinal issues, stomach issues, whatever it may be, something is obviously off with your digestion if you're having those very odd bowel movements, even though if it's normal for you, it might not be healthy. So it's really important that, my big message here is hopefully that you're able to come to terms that, hey, I have a bowel movement, it's important to my health, I can look at it, and it's important to know what it is, and if it's not what I think it should be, if it's not that once a day, formed, easy to pass, whatnot, I can talk to my doctor about it, I can talk to my practitioner about it, and say, hey, I'm concerned about this. I know what a good bowel movement should be, and it's not like that. Because you have to be the biggest advocate for your health, right? You have to put it out there that my bowel movement is not great, and I'd like to fix that because I'd like to live the healthiest, best life I can. Okay? Okay, so enough about bowel movements. I'm going to just talk about some things that I hear all the time from patients. You hear in health magazines or health articles, and while there is some truth to them, they aren't always the truth. They aren't always the most appropriate for everybody. Okay, biggest thing or one of them is about water. Drinking water and hydrating. And right, hydrating is very important. Right, we're mainly made out of water. We all understand that. We can all appreciate that. But at the same time, these guidelines for drinking, gallon upon gallon or liter upon liter of water each day is not always going to be appropriate for every single person, right? It is important to stay hydrated through the day, drinking a little bit of water, but that doesn't mean you have to chug. You've probably seen those like water bottles out there that says, oh, you need to drink this much by this time of the day, or keep going, like liter upon liter of water, or drink 2 of these a day, crazy things like that. So water is very important, but at the same time, we shouldn't flood our system with water. Water can actually become toxic at a certain level. You might have heard these horror stories of, someone is going on a game show host or something for a radio, and they have this challenge where you have to chug, 2 gallons of water in a certain amount of time. You actually have people dying because of that, right? Because at a certain level, too much water, too many fluids actually becomes toxic for you. Your body can't handle that much water. So, and again, I'm not saying that any of you guys are doing that or any of you are drinking that much water, but realize that there is a certain amount of water that we should consume. And it depends on your own situation. So for example, if you have a weak digestion where you have, maybe you have loose stools, maybe you feel really easily bloated or distended after eating, you have diarrhea, you have a lot of fatigue, I wouldn't really recommend, or you're dealing with edema, you have a lot of swelling, I wouldn't recommend you just chugging more and more water, because what you are actually experiencing most likely is a situation where you have pathological fluids within your body, or you have fluids that aren't healthy. They are actually pathological as opposed to physiological, where they're actually doing harm than good, right? You think about someone with edema or swelling, right? That edema and swelling is not normal, it's not healthy. It's still fluids in you, but it's not healthy fluids, right? It's not being used how it's supposed to be. So again, staying hydrated is important, but we don't want to overdo it. So what's my recommendation is, to drink, throughout the day, sip throughout the day, or, drink a little bit. Drink when you're thirsty, drink when you're parched. That's normal. That's what your body is telling you that you need. And most of the time, that's going to be the best thing for you, is drinking when you are thirsty, drink when you are parched. And that doesn't mean you should forget about drinking water or whatnot, or tea. But also, you don't have to chain yourself to that water bottle and just chug it every single day, because that's just not healthy. Okay? So I'm not sure how off kilter this is with what Ashley's been saying.
No, it's fine.
But there is this mentality that we should be eating salads. I want to be healthier, I want to lose weight, I should eat a bunch of salads, right? I should be eating a bunch of raw vegetables, I should be eating fruits all the time. But in reality, again, it's very person dependent, right? Everybody's health, everybody's constitution is unique to them. And therefore, there are situations where you should be doing certain things that other people shouldn't be doing. And one thing that I really like to harp on is this idea of just constantly being obsessed with salads, with raw foods. So what we have to understand is that eating salads and raw food, it can be very healthy, but at the same time is that people with weak digestions, weak stomachs, have a very difficult time digesting those foods, because what's happening is that the body has to work harder to break down those raw foods. It has to heat the foods up, right? Our body is at a 98.6 degree Fahrenheit, give or take. What it does when we take in cold things, it has to warm that food or liquid up to the point where it can start to digest it. Before it can start to break it down, it has to warm it up. And that takes energy, that takes more energy. So if you're someone who has that poor appetite, someone who has that diarrhea, someone who is fatigued all the time, and you're eating all this raw, uncooked food, you're eating all these salads, it can actually be doing you, it actually might make it worse for you rather than better. It actually might make it more difficult to lose weight than not. So that's something important to remember. And again, you can talk to your own practitioner about this. Or you can talk, or you can sort of consult yourself and saying, do I have a healthy gut? Am I, do I have a good appetite? Am I able to digest foods easily? Am I having a good bowel movement, right? And make those changes. So what is the answer to this, right? Of course, eating vegetables, eating fruits, eating raw food is good. So how can we address this if you do meet those criteria of having sort of a weak digestion? We can cook the foods, right? It's not that difficult. You just cook the foods, right? You cook it with a little bit of oil or whatever you want to use, some healthy oil. You fry it, whatever it may be, and you cook the foods rather than eating it. And of course, cooking the foods is breaking the food down, it's warming it up, it's making it easier to digest. So what I really recommend, especially now in a time of winter where it's cold out and where we should be eating more food, but we should be eating more cooked, simple foods, is that we are always cooking our foods, we're always eating things warm, we're always drinking things warm, right? You don't want to go to Dunkin' Donuts and get that iced coffee. I know it tastes very good, but keeping your body warm is very important, and it's going to help your digestion, it's going to help you feel better in general. Okay? And we'll talk about eating with the seasons in a bit, but we should take most of our time when we're eating this raw, colder foods, mainly in the summer. Okay? So that sort of goes to my point of eating with the seasons, right? Some things that are really easy to incorporate into your diet to make you healthier is with eating with the seasons, right? And I'm sure Ashley's talked about this ad nauseum already, because I know she's very health food centric. But eating with the seasons, going to your local farmer's market, getting local fresh produce is one of the healthiest and easiest things you can do, right? Because you're eating the food that is of the environment. You're eating the things that is supposed to be grown, that is supposed to be produced at this time period. You can even think about it through a religious lens, right? God has created these certain time periods in which we should create and cultivate these foods and consume these foods. And in a sense, I'm not sure I don't think it would be a major sin, but if we are eating outside of that season, you can even think about people, for thousands of years, hundreds and thousands of years, they had to eat out produce. They didn't have, planes and trucks that are able to, drive their avocados from Mexico up to Connecticut, right? They didn't have that, right? They had to eat with the seasons, and that's how our body developed and acclimated to our environments, is by eating with the seasons. So that's really easy, that's really simple to do. Go to your grocery store, go to your farmer's market, look up what's in season. It's probably going to be cheaper too, right? Because there's going to be more of it around at that time, right? So eating with the season is really important. General ideas, like we're talking about in the winter, we can eat a little bit more in the winter, right? But it should be warm, it should be nourishing food. It shouldn't be junk food, but it should be warm and nourishing food. And that's what our body is designed to do during these cold, dark periods of the year. While on the flip side, if it's during the summer, right, we should be eating a little bit less. We should be eating lighter food. We should be eating a lot more, vegetation, a lot more vegetables and fruits. And that's what we're supposed to do. Of course, in spring and fall, there's some slight variation to it, a little bit of a mix between the summer and the winter. But be familiar with what is in season, and you'll get the experience of trying new fruits, new vegetables, maybe new dishes, and on top of that, you're going to be eating healthy, you're going to be eating better. So that's very important. Okay, and then leave some room. One of the things that we need to recognize as Americans, we have so much food available to us, right? This is, again, something that's unprecedented. Our ancestors did not have the luxury of having as much food as we could possibly eat 24/7, right? They didn't have McDonald's on every single street. So one thing that we need to do, as people, as we try to follow the middle path, as we try to live as good human beings, is that we don't want to overindulge, right? We need to eat to satiation rather than fullness, right? Leave some room in your stomach, right? You don't want to pack yourself as full as possible with food, right? You're probably not in a state where food is scarce and where you might not find your next meal. So you should eat like that. You should eat to the point where, I've had enough, right? I don't really need anything more. I feel satiated, right? I don't need to eat that much more, and therefore I should stop, right? It can be tempting. You want that last potato chip, you want that last potato, you want that last piece of chocolate cake or whatever it may be. But being disciplined is one of the hardest part, but also one of the most important parts about eating healthy, right? Stopping yourself and knowing that I probably don't need to eat a little bit more, right? And you'll thank yourself later, right? Because if you do eat that extra piece of cake, you do eat that extra slice of pizza or lentil soup, right? You're going to feel full, you're going to feel distended, and you're going to regret it afterwards, right? And then on top of that, right, we can also eat slowly. I know we live in this crazy, sort of hectic world of going from point A to B, working all the time, this workaholic culture that we live in. But eating slowly is also really important too. Taking your time to consume your food, chewing your food is also very important. That's how we were designed to eat food. We weren't designed to have it be a race to try to eat as much food as quickly as possible. But slowly enjoy our food, chew our food and digest our food will make everything easier. I know it's harder said than done. I sometimes eat too fast, or I'm looking at my phone or whatever, and I'm just pushing things in my mouth. But we have to be cognizant of that. We need to prevent ourselves and enjoy the process of eating. And by doing that, we can eat slowly and we can be more healthy. Okay. So let's now talk a little bit about taking control of your health. From this little spiel, right, you might have heard things that maybe you're questioning yourself. Do I have the best bowel movement? Is my digestion as good as it could be? Maybe you're in a case where every afternoon you feel like you really need to take a nap. Or maybe you wake up and you don't have an appetite at all, right? You don't even eat until lunch or dinner time, right? All those things are not exactly healthy. They're variations of health. Our body is designed to process things and do things in a certain way, and when we stray from that balance, we tend to have problems, whether it be problems with energy, problems with our bowel movement, problems with our cognition, whatever it may be. These things are going to take effect of your life if you don't address them now. If you don't take control of them now, they're only going to exacerbate and become bigger issues later. So as I was mentioning earlier, I work at Sophia Natural Health Center. I'm the senior acupuncturist there. We have a team of 3 great doctors. We have, not saying that I'm great, but we have Dr. Hoffman, who is the medical director. He's actually going to be here in a couple of months to talk to you guys later. He is a fantastic doctor who uses both functional medicine and sort of Chinese medicine together. Excuse me. We also have Dr. Mafood, who's our resident naturopath. He also does some acupuncture, but he mainly focuses on supplements and consultations. And they're both wonderful, wonderful doctors. And we have a really great team that specializes in people who fall through the cracks. I spend every day, I see hundreds of patients each week, or like 100 patients each week. And I see people who have fallen through the cracks of the healthcare system, right? People who go to doctors and they come with their problems, and the doctor sort of shoos them away, saying, I don't know what to do. Go see that guy. Go see that specialist. And they never get answers. They never get things fixed. And luckily, we specialize in those difficult cases. We specialize in those cases where that seem hopeless. And we are luckily able to get a lot of those people feeling much better. Right? It does take time, but a lot of those people leave feeling much, much better. An example we just had today, we had this one patient who has horrible, horrible, horrible migraines. And she's been through the whole rigmarole of seeing every single specialist you could imagine in the area, and nobody could ever figure it out. It was actually Dr. Mafood who figured out that she had a very elevated level of prolactin in her blood. It's a type of hormone, and it was likely causing her horrible migraines. And now that we have actually that idea in mind, now that we were able to diagnose the actual root of the problem, we're now starting to treat her effectively, and she's doing much, much better. And right, she saw some of the greatest doctors we have in the area, and they really couldn't figure it out. It was only because of what Dr. Mafood's great clinical acumen that he was able to figure that out. That's right, we restore health naturally alongside with cutting-edge diagnostics. So, Western medicine is amazing for emergency medicine and also for diagnostics. But unfortunately, when it comes to chronic issues like digestion, it tends to fall short. It tends to not have answers, and it tends to just push pills on people and expect issues to get better when they actually don't. And not to mention that giving you a whole bunch of side effects at the same time. So we like to think of ourselves as this middle ground between ancient wisdom and also cutting edge technology, where we're able to take both worlds and create a treatment plan that is going to be most effective for you. And I apologize for sounding somewhat like a businessman or an advertiser, but it's sort of a part of the whole thing. So acupuncture, right? One of the main reasons why I hear people don't want to get acupuncture is because they think it's going to hurt, right? In reality, it really does not hurt at all. Even though you might be squeamish about needles, in reality, you barely feel a thing, right? We use very thin needles, very superficial, very gentle technique, and you barely feel a thing at all. Most of our patients fall asleep during the treatments. You can ask Ashley about this. They fall asleep, they're rested, they come out energized, they feel good, right? It is a process, right? Changing how the body works takes time, but by and large, most of our patients are very happy with the outcome, right? One thing we also have to understand that it's also just not for pain. Some of us already have the idea that, hey, acupuncture is good for pain, it's good for lower back pain, neck pain, whatever. But Chinese medicine is a medical system. It's a complete medical system where it can treat blood pressure issues, it can treat digestive issues, it can treat gynecological issues, right? It's not limited to just pain. And that's something that we need to do better in educating people, or we're attempting to do that, but right, getting the message out there to everybody can be difficult. So it can be for a number of different things, including digestion. So acupuncture, it's really not scary at all. I do it every day. People do not scream, they aren't yelling, they aren't tortured. It's a really relaxing and very therapeutic modality. And if you do have pain, we're also really good at treating that too. And then herbs, right? This herbal medicine has been used for thousands of years. It's been used, since, the dawn of mankind, right? And I've been thinking about this idea a lot, right? Thinking about how our Creator wants us to get better, not just, through faith, of course, but then also, how are we supposed to interact with other people? How are we supposed to interact with doctors and get better? And I'm becoming more and more convinced, right? You think about it, it's God that puts these herbs, it's God that puts these plants, it's God that has these acupuncture points on our body that we can stimulate, that can produce changes in our body, that can restore our health, right? I don't want to sound preachy at all or anything, but I'm almost convinced. Okay. But I'm almost convinced that this is how God wants us to get better, rather than pharmaceuticals, rather in these sterile sort of dead labs where they're creating these specific enzymes or these specific molecules that they come from nature, but then they're altered, they're changed into something that is not natural. And then they give us these pills, and we get all these side effects, and we have all these issues, right? When we prescribe Chinese herbs, when we do acupuncture, when we do it properly at least, there are no side effects, right? You can even have certain medications nowadays where you prescribe them, and it might do what it's supposed to do. It might cure your high blood pressure, but then it gives you a handful of other issues at the same time. Right, so what's the point of that, right? You're fixing one issue to cause a whole bunch of other issues, right? So it would make much more sense to just treat the body of how it's supposed to be treated, with the herbs that grow from our earth and from the physiology that our Creator has given us, right? It just makes more sense to me, at least. I don't know. And so thank you for listening to me drone on about this. Just one more thing. So we are located here in Brookfield. We actually have some vouchers over there for a $57 consultation. So if you're just interested, you can come in, you can talk to our doctors and present your story, what you're dealing with, and see if we can help you or not, and see if we can create a program for you to get better. We take most major insurance companies, and we're usually fairly flexible with our plans and everything. And it really should be the first line of defense when it comes to medicine, right? You shouldn't go, in my opinion, you shouldn't go directly to the urgent care, directly to the emergency room when something happens, of course, unless it's really an emergency. But right, if you're dealing with chronic issues, it makes so much more sense to take the natural route first, rather than just jumping the gun to the big pharma and just taking in a bunch of pills. Anyways, that's my idea, and really love to meet all of you guys if you are dealing with issues, and thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I appreciate it. Any questions? Yes?
Any questions?
One question.
Sure.
The water.
Isn't it, it's like rule of thumb that say if you're 200 pounds, you have like 100 ounces of water?
In your body total, or?
No, to drink.
To drink. Again, I don't follow any of those
Because-
rules of thumbs when it comes to that. Again, you could be whatever amount of pounds, but you could have a lot of pathological fluids. Your body might not be processing those fluids properly, and you might need a lot of water, or you might need just a little bit of water. So again, we don't want to have anybody dehydrate, but I'm just against this idea of this constant chugging of water. I'm not for that. I don't think that's healthy, right? You know, again, we were talking about this idea of not overindulging, right? Same thing with water. We shouldn't overindulge with water. There's always a balance to things, right? There's always too much or too little, and we're trying to find that.
Yeah, but what if you don't really get thirsty?
Right. Then you should sip. You should sip. You should drink a little bit of water. You should keep yourself, you know, your mouth moist. You shouldn't feel dry or too thirsty. So again, it's not about taking that big jug of water and just gulping it down, but you know, it's about just keeping yourself moistened, I guess, in a sense. Yes, sir.
Do you start with any type of blood work to just get an inclination of?
That's a good question, sir. Yes, so we like I was saying, we definitely use that cutting edge diagnostics. So we have scans that are able to, you know, monitor your heart rate, that are able to check your nervous system to get a good idea of how your body's functioning. And then we also have, depending on your situation, whether you want to check your thyroid or you want to check your hormonal levels. We have all those different types of tests so that we can get to that root cause of your issue and do the best we can to solve it.
Question about that
Yes, ma'am.
question. What if you don't really have any issues that stand out? Is it something that you could do on a regular basis, similar to like chiropractic, just to kind of keep things
That's
aligned,
why I
or
go.
you know?
That's
Yeah.
why I go.
Okay, because I haven't gone in a while, but I haven't had any issues, so I just like, you know, plus my insurance doesn't cover acupuncture anymore, so
I'm sorry to
I
hear
think
that.
that's why I backed off.
So yeah, you can definitely go for the optimization of health. You know, most people, our goal is to have people, even if they come in with issues, and we hopefully resolve those issues, we want them to sort of hopefully maintain a maintenance program where they're coming in, you know, once a month or something, just to make sure that everything's going well, making sure that their body's functioning at an optimal level so that we can prevent disease from happening. Because in reality, you know, Chinese medicine was originally designed to prevent disease, right? There's this idea in the ancient texts that the superior doctor is the doctor who prevents disease from happening, rather than treating it when it already happens, right? So prevention is very important.
Okay, question.
Yep.
Is it like you deal with meridians? Is that how, like you make sure like it's all,
So that's the highway that we work with. That's the tools that we work with. Our body has 14 major channels in the body, and the way that we sort of assess that is mainly through the pulse, through looking at diagnostic signs, looking at your tongue, looking at your appearance, questioning. All of those things can help us understand how your body's functioning, and then we can use those acupuncture points that are on those meridians to help influence how your body works.
okay, so you're making like everything flow properly or like,
Right, so there's a famous adage in Chinese medicine, 不通则通，通则不通, right? This idea that when things when things are flowing smoothly, when things are flowing well, there's no pain or there's no issue or disease. But when things are blocked or impaired, disease or
so
pain.
that's
tends to-
basically what you're doing is you're clearing
making
up
sure
the
that the body,
blockages.
making
yeah.
sure the body's functioning optimally.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Do people consider you primary care?
So in Connecticut, I don't think that's the case. I recently just moved here. For instance, in California, in Florida, I think Chinese medicine doctors are considered primary care, but I don't think so in Connecticut, though.
Do your clients consider you primary care though?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. I see my naturopath for primary care.
Right.
The same thing with my grandkids, see naturopath for primary care now too.
What would be the transition from primary care to seeing you guys?
So we would always recommend that you do maintain contact with your PCP, but you don't necessarily have to see him all the time, right? You can come more to us rather than say, you've got this back pain, or hey, I'm worried about my blood pressure, or whatever it may be, and come refer to us. And unless something really crazy is going on, you know, you can stay in our roundhouse rather than having to go somewhere else.